Part 1 Commander Jiwan stood on the bridge of the frigate Defender and stared at the empty space where the mining colony used to be. 3 days ago, 5,000 people lived and worked on that small moon. Now there was nothing but debris and radiation. "Check the readings again," Jiwan said to the scanning officer. "Tell me what happened here." The young officer looked nervous. "Commander, the energy signatures match orbital bombardment, heavy plasma weapons. Nothing we have in our fleet matches this power level." Jiwan felt cold. Humanity had been exploring space for 200 years. They had met no one. Every planet, every moon, every asteroid had been empty of intelligent life. Until now, Admiral Hyesu appeared on the communication screen. The old woman had fought in the colony wars 30 years ago. Her face was hard. "What do you have, Commander?" "We were not alone after all," Jiwan said quietly. "Someone destroyed the colony, someone with weapons much stronger than ours." Hyesu nodded slowly. "Keep scanning. Find out who did this. The rest of the fleet will join you within the hour." The hour passed slowly. 2 more frigates arrived, then 2 destroyers. Captain Minho commanded one of the frigates. He was young and aggressive, always ready for a fight. On the communication channel, his face was tight with anger. "Whoever did this needs to pay," Minho said. 5,000 civilians, children, families. "We need information first," Jiwan replied. "We know nothing about them, their weapons, their numbers, their intentions." Lieutenant Dabin, the communications officer, suddenly called out, "Commander, I am detecting something. Energy signatures, very large, coming from hyperspace. Show me," Jiwan ordered. The main screen changed. 6 massive shapes appeared in space, emerging from hyperspace with flashes of blue light. They were ships, but not like any human ship. These vessels were enormous, 3 times the size of the largest human battleship. Their hulls were dark metal covered with strange symbols that glowed red. "Those are dreadnoughts," the scanning officer whispered. 6 of them. Each one could destroy our entire fleet. Dabin looked at Jiwan with fear in her eyes. "Commander, they are sending a message. Audio only." "Put it through," Jiwan said. A harsh voice filled the bridge. It spoke perfect English, but the accent was strange. "I am Admiral Krell of the Varoth Hegemony. You are in territory claimed by the Hegemony. The colony on this moon was destroyed for illegal settlement. You will surrender your vessels immediately or be destroyed." Jiwan took a breath. Stay calm, she thought. Get information. "This is Commander Jiwan of the Terran Colonial Fleet. The colony was established 40 years ago. We had no knowledge of any other intelligent species in this region. We request peaceful negotiations." There was silence. Then Krell laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Terran? You call yourselves Terrans. You are primitives with crude vessels. The Varoth Hegemony controls 847 star systems. Your little colony was nothing. You are nothing. I will give you 1 minute to surrender. Then I will destroy you." On the communication channel, Minho shouted, "Do not listen to him. We should fight." Admiral Hyesu cut in. "All ships, this is Admiral Hisu. Execute Protocol Gamma 7 immediately. I repeat, Protocol Gamma 7. Jiwan understood. Protocol Gamma 7 meant one thing: survive and gather intelligence. Do not win. Do not die. Learn everything possible about the enemy, then retreat. "All hands, battle stations," Jiwan announced. "Prepare for combat maneuvers. Scanning team, record everything, every weapon discharge, every shield frequency, every tactical movement." The minute ended. Krell spoke again. "You have chosen death." The Varoth dreadnoughts opened fire. Red beams of energy lanced across space. The first shot hit one of the human destroyers. The shields absorbed most of the blast, but the ship shuddered. Warning alarms screamed. "Evasive maneuvers," Jiwan ordered. "Keep moving. Do not let them target us." The human ship scattered, moving fast. They were smaller and faster than the massive Varoth vessels. The dreadnoughts were powerful but slow to turn. Their weapons had incredible range but could not track fast-moving targets easily. "Launch missiles," Hisu commanded. All ships concentrated fire on the lead dreadnought. Hundreds of missiles streaked toward the Varoth flagship. They hit the shields and exploded in brilliant flashes. But when the light faded, the dreadnought was undamaged. Its shields had held. "Their shields are too strong," the weapons officer reported. "Our missiles cannot penetrate." "Keep firing," G1 said. "We need to see how their shields work. Watch for any patterns." The battle continued for 30 minutes. The human ships dodged and weaved, launching missiles and firing their smaller energy weapons. They could not hurt the Varoth dreadnoughts, but they kept moving, kept gathering data. The scanning officer recorded everything. Then Minho spoke on the command channel. His voice was steady. "Admiral, this is Captain Minho. My ship is damaged, engines at 30%. I cannot keep up with the others." "Retreat, Captain," Yesu ordered. "Break off and no time, Admiral. They are targeting me. But I can give the rest of you time to escape." Minho paused. "It has been an honor serving with you all." Before anyone could respond, Minho turned his damaged frigate directly toward the Varoth flagship. He accelerated at full power. "All ships, retreat to hyperspace coordinates," Yesu said quietly. "Now, that is an order." G1 watched as Minho's ship rushed toward the enormous dreadnought. The Varoth vessels focused their fire on him. Red energy beams tore through his shields, through his hull, but Minho kept going. His ship exploded in a massive fireball just before it would have hit the flagship. The explosion gave the other ships precious seconds. They jumped to hyperspace and vanished. On the Varoth flagship, Admiral Krell watched the human ships disappear. He smiled. His crew stood at attention, waiting for orders. "Send a message to the Hegemony Command," Krell said. "Report that we have eliminated a human military presence in this sector. 5 small vessels, primitively armed. They fought poorly and fled quickly. The human threat has been neutralized." "Sir, should we pursue them?" an officer asked. Krell waved his hand dismissively. "No need. That was clearly their entire military force in this region. Weak ships with inferior weapons. They are no threat to the hegemony. We will continue our expansion into this territory as planned." The crew nodded and returned to their duties. None of them suspected the truth. 3 days later, Commander G1 stood in the command center of Fleet Headquarters on Earth. Around her were dozens of officers, all studying the data her ships had gathered. The room was silent, except for the soft hum of computers. Grand Admiral Sunwoo entered the room. Everyone stood at attention. Sunwoo was a legend in the Terran Defense Fleet. She had designed most of the defensive strategies that kept humanity safe. Now she looked at the data on the main screen with cold, calculating eyes. "Tell me what we learned," Sunwoo said. Jiwan stepped forward. "The Varoth have powerful shields and weapons, but their ships are slow. Their shields cycle on a predictable pattern. Their weapons have great range but poor tracking against fast targets. And they think we are weak," Sunwoo said quietly. "Yes, Admiral. They think those 5 ships were our entire force in that sector." Sunwoo allowed herself a small smile. "Then they made a terrible mistake. Activate Defense Protocol 1. Contact all fleet commanders. Tell them to prepare for full mobilization." "Admiral, are we going to war?" Jiwan asked. "No, Commander. We are going to show them what happens when you attack humanity and assume we are helpless." Sunwoo looked at the data again. "They destroyed a colony, killed 5,000 civilians, murdered Captain Minho and his crew, and they think that was our entire military response." Sunwoo turned to face the entire command center. Every officer watched her. "Let us teach the Varoth hegemony a lesson they will never forget. Prepare the fleet, all 7 fleets. It is time to show them what the Terran Defense Force really is." 3 months had passed since the first contact. In the Varoth capital city, Admiral Krell stood before the Hegemony Council and reported his victory. The council chamber was enormous, with walls of polished black stone. 20 senior officials sat in a semicircle, listening to his words. "The human threat has been eliminated," Krell said confidently. "We destroyed their colony and defeated their military force, 5 small vessels with weak weapons. They ran away after minimal resistance. This entire region of space is now open for hegemony expansion. The council leader, a tall Varoth named Thaxon, nodded slowly. You are certain the humans pose no further threat? Absolutely certain, Emperor. Our scouts have been monitoring their space. They have detected only commercial traffic, cargo ships, passenger vessels. Nothing military. The humans appear to be a merchant civilization with minimal defense capability. Then we proceed with the expansion, Emperor Thaxon declared. Prepare an occupation force. 30 dreadnoughts should be sufficient for such a weak species. Krell bowed. 30 dreadnoughts was a massive force by hegemony standards. It represented 15% of their entire military. With that much power, they could easily control the entire human territory, or so they believed. On Earth, in a secure underground facility, a very different meeting was taking place. Grand Admiral Sunwoo stood at the head of a large conference table. Around the table sat the commanders of all 7 Terran defense fleets, the governors of 67 colony worlds, and the president of the Terran Federation. The room was tense. Everyone had seen the reports. An alien empire had destroyed a human colony without warning. They had killed 5,000 civilians, and now they were preparing to invade. President Doyen spoke first. Grand Admiral, what are our options? Sunwoo activated the holographic display. It showed the Varoth hegemony territory in red. 847 star systems. Then it showed human territory in blue. 67 systems. The red dwarfed the blue. They have a larger territory, Sunwoo said calmly. But territory does not win wars. Let me show you what we have learned. Fleet Admiral Jiwan stood up. She had been promoted after the first contact. Now she commanded the 3rd Fleet. She pointed to technical data on the display. The Varoth have powerful individual ships, but they have critical weaknesses. Their shields cycle in a predictable pattern. Every 43 seconds there is a 2-second window of vulnerability. Their weapons have impressive range, but they cannot track fast-moving targets effectively. Their ships are large and slow. Engineer Nari, the head of weapons development, added more information. We have developed countermeasures. Our missile swarms can exploit their shield cycles. 500 missiles fired simultaneously will overwhelm their point defenses during the vulnerable window. What about their numbers? Asked Governor Hyun from the colony of New Seoul. They have 800 systems to our 67. Sunwoo smiled slightly. They have more territory, yes. But we have spent 200 years building defenses. Every colony has orbital defense platforms. Every major world has a fleet garrison. And we have 3 critical advantages they know nothing about. The display changed to show 3 technical diagrams. First, quantum entanglement communication. Our ships can coordinate instantly across any distance. The Varoth use conventional faster-than-light communication with a delay. Second, our FTL drives recharge in minutes. Theirs take hours. We can jump, fight, and jump again before they can respond. Third, our doctrine. We do not build individual superships. We build many smaller ships that work together. Jiwan brought up the fleet numbers. The room went silent as everyone read the display. Terran Defense Fleet total strength. 247 battleships. 612 cruisers. 1,834 destroyers. 4,567 frigates, plus 2,100 support vessels. Over 9,000 ships in total. That is more ships than any single nation has built in human history. President Doyen said quietly. We built them because we were afraid. Sunwoo replied. For 200 years we explored an empty galaxy. We always wondered when we would meet someone else. And when we did meet them, would they be friendly? We prepared for the worst. We built defenses. We trained crews. We developed weapons. And the galaxy thought we were alone and helpless. The Varoth scouts reported seeing only commercial traffic in our space, Jiwan added. They saw cargo ships and thought that was all we had. They did not detect our military vessels because our stealth technology is far superior to theirs. So what do? Asked Fleet Admiral Taeho, commander of the 5th Fleet. Sunwoo changed the display to show a strategic map. We let them come. We let them think we are weak. We allow their invasion force to penetrate deep into our territory. Then we surround them and destroy them completely. I call it Operation Thunderclap. The plan was simple but devastating. The Varoth would send their invasion force to a major human colony, expecting easy victory. Instead, they would find themselves surrounded by the combined might of multiple Terran fleets. No escape, no reinforcements. Complete annihilation. Which colony do we use as bait? Governor Hyun asked. Nova Terra, Sunwoo replied. It is large enough to seem like an important target. It has 4.3 billion people, so the Vareth will want to conquer it for its population. But it also has the deepest space, farthest from Varoth territory. If we surround them there, they cannot retreat quickly. You are asking us to risk 4 billion people, Governor Hyun said. No. I am asking you to trust our fleet to protect them. We will position our forces before the Vareth arrive. They will never reach the planet's surface. The battle will be over before any civilians are in danger. President Doyen looked around the table. Every face was serious. This was the biggest decision in human history. They could try to negotiate, try to appease the Varoth, or they could fight. They killed 5,000 of our people without warning, Doyen said slowly. They destroyed a colony that had existed for 40 years. They showed no mercy, no interest in peace. And they think we are helpless, the president stood up. I approve Operation Thunderclap. Show them what humanity really is. Over the next 3 months, the Terran Defense Fleet mobilized in secret. Ships moved through space using silent running protocols. They gathered at hidden positions near Nova Terra. Thousands of vessels waiting in the dark. On the surface of Nova Terra, life continued normally. The 4 billion people had been told the truth. An alien fleet was coming, but the Terran Defense Fleet would protect them. There was fear, but also trust. Humanity had spent 2 centuries building these defenses. Now it was time to see if they worked. In the Varoth fleet, Admiral Krell prepared for easy victory. He had 30 dreadnoughts, 85 cruisers, and 200 support vessels. The largest invasion force the hegemony had assembled in 50 years. Against weak humans with primitive ships, it seemed like overwhelming power. Krell stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the star charts. Nova Terra, a major human colony world, population over 4 billion. When we conquer it, the humans will have no choice but to surrender completely. Sir, should we send scouts ahead? Asked his second officer. No need. We know the humans are weak. We defeated their military months ago. This will be a simple occupation operation. The humans probably do not even know we are coming. How wrong he was. The Varoth fleet entered hyperspace, heading for Nova Terra. In the command center of the flagship Indomitable, Grand Admiral Sunwoo received the report. The Varoth fleet has departed. They will arrive at Nova Terra in 17 hours. Sunwoo nodded. Signal all fleet commanders. Operation Thunderclap is now active. All ships to battle positions. We have 17 hours to be ready. Around Nova Terra, in the darkness of space, 9,000 human warships powered up their systems and prepared for battle. The Varoth thought they were bringing overwhelming force. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The trap was set. Admiral Krell stood on the bridge of his flagship as they emerged from hyperspace. The journey had been smooth. His fleet of 30 dreadnoughts and supporting vessels was the pride of the Varoth hegemony. Now they would claim another world for the Empire. Beginning scan of the Nova Terra system, the scanning officer reported. Detecting the planet. Population centers visible. No orbital defenses detected. No military vessels in the immediate area. Krell smiled. As expected. The humans are defenseless. Prepare to... The scanning officer suddenly shouted. Sir, new contacts. Multiple new contacts. Hundreds of them. They are appearing all around us. The main display changed. Krell felt his blood turn cold. The screen was filling with red icons, ships, human ships. Not hundreds, thousands above them. Below them. To the left and right. Behind them. In perfect formation, the Terran Defense Fleet had positioned itself in a complete sphere around the Varoth invasion force. And at the center of the formation, directly ahead, were 247 massive battleships arranged in neat rows. Krell could not breathe. That is impossible. We destroyed their military. We defeated them. Those 5 ships were all they had. His second officer looked at him with wide eyes. Sir, those 5 ships, that was not their entire army? Count them, Krell whispered. Count the ships. The scanning officer worked frantically. 247 battleships, 612 cruisers, 1,834 destroyers, 4,567 frigates. Total count over 9,000 vessels, sir. The bridge was silent. 9,000 ships. The entire Varoth hegemony military had only 1,200 major vessels spread across 800 systems. The humans had brought 9,000 ships to one location. It was not a battle. It was an execution. A communications signal came through. A human voice, calm and professional. Varoth Fleet, this is Grand Admiral Sunwoo of the Terran Defense Force. You are completely surrounded. Power down your weapons and surrender immediately. This is your only warning. Krell found his voice. You were hiding this entire fleet, how? You assumed we were weak because you defeated 5 scout ships. You never investigated further. You never asked why a species would colonize 67 star systems without building defenses. Your arrogance blinded you. Krell felt rage replace his fear. He had been made a fool. Worse, he had led his fleet into a trap. But he was still a Varoth admiral. He would not surrender. The Varoth hegemony does not surrender to primitives. All ships, open fire! Target the battleships. The Varoth dreadnoughts opened fire. Red energy beams lanced across space toward the human battleships. The beams hit shields and scattered. The battleships did not even move. On the indomitable, Sunwoo watched the Varoth attack with cold eyes. They chose death. All ships execute attack pattern Omega. Missile swarms launch on my mark. The response was overwhelming. From thousands of human ships, missiles launched simultaneously. Not dozens. Not hundreds. Hundreds of thousands of missiles filled space, all converging on the Varoth fleet. Engineer Nari had calculated everything perfectly. The missiles reached the Varoth fleet exactly 43 seconds after the first Varoth shot, exactly when the Varoth shields entered their vulnerable cycle. The first wave hit 3 dreadnoughts, 500 missiles each. The Varoth point defense systems destroyed maybe 100, but 400 missiles got through during the 2-second shield window. The dreadnoughts exploded in massive fireballs. Second wave, launch, Sunwoo ordered calmly. 3 more dreadnoughts died. The Varoth fleet tried to scatter, but there was nowhere to go. Everywhere they turned, human ships waited. The sphere was complete. Captain Yuna led the fighter strike. 2,400 small, fast fighters swept through the Varoth formation. They were too small and quick for the heavy Varoth weapons to target. They fired missiles at close range, targeting engine sections and shield generators. The Varoth cruisers tried to form a defensive screen around the dreadnoughts. Fleet Admiral Jiwon, commanding the 3rd Fleet, had positioned her ships for exactly this response. 3rd Fleet, converge on the cruiser screen, concentrated fire pattern Delta. 600 human cruisers focused their weapons on the Varoth cruiser line. The Varoth had 85 cruisers. They lasted 7 minutes. On Krell's flagship, the tactical officer was shouting reports. 15 dreadnoughts destroyed. 21 damaged. All cruisers destroyed or disabled. Support vessels scattering. Retreat. All ships retreat to hyperspace, Krell ordered. The navigation officer looked up with despair in his eyes. Sir, we cannot. Our hyperspace drives need 47 minutes to recharge. The humans are jamming our emergency jump systems. Krell understood then. The humans had planned everything. They knew about the Varoth drive recharge times. They had positioned themselves to prevent escape. This was not just a battle. It was a carefully designed trap. Signal the fleet. All remaining ships full power to forward shields. We will break through the human line ahead of us. It is our only chance. The 12 surviving dreadnoughts formed up and accelerated directly toward the human battleship formation. It was a desperate move. But Krell had no other option. The human battleships did not move. They simply rotated to present their broadsides. Every weapons port opened. Krell saw what was coming but could not stop. 247 battleships fired at once. The combined firepower was like staring into a star. Energy beams, railgun projectiles, and missiles converged on the charging dreadnoughts. The Varoth shields held for 3 seconds. Then they collapsed. The dreadnoughts vanished in a wall of fire. Krell's flagship was the last to die. As the hull began to break apart, he had one final thought. They had underestimated the humans. They had assumed the species was weak because they seemed small and scattered. They never considered that a species might build massive defenses precisely because they were afraid of the unknown. The explosion consumed his ship. Admiral Krell died without ever understanding the full scope of his mistake. On the Indomitable, the tactical officer reported, all Varoth dreadnoughts destroyed. 83 cruisers destroyed, 2 captured. 197 support vessels destroyed. Battle duration 4 hours 12 minutes. Our losses? Sunwoo asked. 14 destroyers destroyed. 47 frigates destroyed. 89 fighters lost. Total casualties approximately 6,000 personnel. Sunwoo closed her eyes for a moment. 6,000 dead. Captain Minho and his crew had been avenged, but the price was still heavy. Still, compared to what could have happened if the Varoth had reached the planet, it was a miracle. Send recovery teams for the captured Varoth vessels. I want every piece of their technology analyzed. And I want prisoners treated well. They are our responsibility now. Fleet Admiral G1 appeared on the communication screen. Her face was tired but satisfied. Grand Admiral, the Third Fleet is ready to pursue any escaping vessels. No pursuit necessary. None of them escaped. Send a message to all fleet commanders. Well done. And signal Nova Terra. Tell them they are safe. On the surface of Nova Terra, 4 billion people watched the sky through telescopes and monitors. They had seen the flashes of battle high above their world. They had waited in fear and hope. When the announcement came that the battle was over and humanity had won, the celebrations began. In every city and every town, people cried and laughed and hugged each other. The Terran Defense Fleet had protected them. The promise had been kept, but the real impact of the battle would not be felt on Nova Terra. It would be felt across the entire galaxy as news spread of what had happened. The Varoth hegemony, one of the galaxy's strongest military powers, had sent 15% of their entire military to conquer a weak primitive species. And that week, primitive species had destroyed them completely in just 4 hours. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. The news traveled fast. In the Varith capital, Emperor Thaxon received the report 3 days after the battle. He read it twice, unable to believe the words. 30 dreadnoughts, 85 cruisers, 200 support vessels, all destroyed. 15% of the hegemony military gone in 4 hours. How? Thaxon asked his advisors. How did we miss this? We sent scouts. They reported only commercial traffic. An intelligence officer stepped forward nervously. Emperor, we have analyzed the data from the few escape pods that were recovered. The humans have stealth technology far superior to ours. Our scouts could only detect their civilian ships. Their military vessels were invisible to our sensors. And their numbers? Thaxon demanded. Admiral Krell reported fighting over 9,000 ships. Where did they get 9,000 ships? They have been building them for 200 years, Emperor. Every colony has a garrison. Every system has defense platforms. They control 67 star systems with a population of 127 billion. We underestimated them completely. Thaxon stood up from his throne. His hands were shaking. This was a disaster. The hegemony had 847 systems, but only spread thin military forces across them. They relied on the reputation of their powerful ships. Now that reputation was broken, and worse news was already spreading. Send word to all governors, Thaxon ordered. Tell them to increase security, and send a message to the humans. We wish to negotiate peace. But it was too late to contain the damage. Within days, 5 Varoth governors declared independence, seeing the Empire as weak. 3 more asked the humans for protection. The hegemony was collapsing. Meanwhile, on a massive space station called Galactic Council Hub, representatives from 2,000 different species were gathering for an emergency session. The hub was neutral territory, a place where civilizations met to discuss trade, treaties, and disputes. Ambassador Hajin walked through the corridors with a mixture of nervousness and pride. She was the first human to ever visit the hub. 6 months ago, when humanity had applied for council membership, they had been rejected. The council members had reviewed human territory and technology and decided humans were too small and primitive to matter. Now those same council members were rushing to meet her. Ambassador Lyra of the Karev Sovereignty was one of the first to approach. The Karev were tall, blue-skinned beings who controlled 300 systems. Lyra had been polite but dismissive when rejecting humanity's membership application. Now Lyra bowed respectfully. Ambassador Hajin, welcome to the hub. The council would like to formally apologize for our previous decision. We were misinformed about humanity's capabilities. Hajin kept her face neutral. We understand. We are a new species to the galactic community. It is natural that there would be misunderstandings. The Varoth hegemony was the 4th strongest military power in known space. Lyra said quietly. You destroyed 15% of their fleet without losing a single battleship. The council needs to understand your intentions. Our intentions are simple, Hajin replied. We wish to live in peace. We wish to trade and share knowledge with other species, but we will defend ourselves and our allies against aggression. The Varoth destroyed one of our colonies without warning. We responded appropriately. The council session was tense. Hajin stood at the speaker's podium, surrounded by thousands of alien representatives. Some looked at her with fear, others with calculation, a few with hope. The council leader, a wise old being from a species called the Trell, spoke first. Ambassador Hajin, the Galactic Council has reviewed the events at Nova Terra. We have confirmed that the Varoth hegemony attacked your colony without provocation. Your response was within your rights of self-defense. However, the scale of your military is concerning to many members. We understand the concern, Hajin said, but our military is entirely defensive. We do not seek to conquer territory. We do not demand tribute. We simply wish to ensure that no one can threaten our people again. You have 9,000 warships, another council member challenged. That is more than most coalitions. What stops you from using that power to dominate others? Hajin had prepared for this question. Grand Admiral Sunwoo had given her the perfect answer. Our philosophy is simple. We prepare for war so thoroughly that no one dares start one. We make our defenses so strong that aggression becomes pointless. Look at what happened to the Varoth. They attacked us and their empire is now collapsing. That will make others think twice before choosing violence. She paused, then continued. And we offer the same protection to others. 15 former Varoth colonies have already asked for our help. We have agreed not to conquer them, not to control them, to protect them from anyone who would harm them. We will extend this offer to any species that wishes it. The council chamber filled with whispers. This was unprecedented. A species offering military protection without demanding political control? Back on Earth, Commander Seojin was analyzing the data from captured Varoth ships. What she found was eye-opening. The Varoth military databases contained detailed information about the galactic power structure. She brought her report to Grand Admiral Sunwoo. Admiral, I have reviewed the Varoth intelligence files. Most galactic species maintain very small military forces. The average species with 100 systems has maybe 200 major warships. The Varoth had 1,200 spread across 800 systems, making them unusually militarized. And we have 9,000 ships across 67 systems. Sunwoo said, we are the most heavily militarized species in the galaxy by a massive margin. Yes, Admiral. The galaxy relies on deterrence and diplomacy. Most species maintain just enough military to discourage pirates and raiders. Large-scale wars are rare because the costs are too high. No one builds massive fleets because no one else does. Except us. We built massive fleets because we were alone and afraid of what we might find. Sunwoo smiled slightly. We prepared for the worst-case scenario. And when the Varoth attacked, they learned what that preparation meant. Seojin nodded. The files also show something else. Piracy and territorial disputes are common problems. The Council has no central military force. Individual species must protect themselves or negotiate coalitions. It is inefficient and often leads to violence. Then we offer them a better way, Sunwoo said. Ambassador Hajin is already proposing the Galactic Defense Initiative. Any species can request protection. We will defend them against aggression. No strings attached. No political control, just security. Some will fear we have hidden motives, Seojin warned. Let our actions prove our intentions. We will start small. Protect the 15 Varoth colonies that ask for help. Show that we keep our word. Others will follow. At the Galactic Council Hub, the vote was taking place. Humanity's membership application was being reconsidered. Hajin watched as the votes came in. The result was overwhelming. 1,873 in favor, 27 against, 94 abstaining. The council leader made the announcement. The Galactic Council formally recognizes the Terran Federation as a full member with all voting rights and privileges. Welcome to the galactic community, Ambassador Hajin. The chamber erupted in a mix of applause and nervous chatter. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage not as a minor player, but as a potential superpower. And everyone knew it. After the session, Ambassador Lyra approached Hajin again. The Karev diplomat looked serious. I need to tell you something privately, Lyra said. The Varoth were the fourth strongest military power. Do you know who the first three are? No, should I be concerned? The Karev sovereignty is third. We have 2,000 major vessels. The Drell Collective is second with 3,000 ships. And the ancient Torvan Empire is first with 5,000 vessels accumulated over 3,000 years. Lyra paused. You have 9,000 ships built in 200 years. By the time the galaxy fully understands what you are capable of, you may be the dominant power in known space. Hajin considered this. Is that a threat? No, it is a statement of fact. And perhaps an opportunity. The Karev sovereignty would like to propose a defensive alliance. We share similar philosophies. We believe in strong defenses to prevent war. Together we could bring stability to the entire galaxy. I will bring your proposal to President Doyen and the Council, but I believe they will be interested. We did not come to the stars to be alone. We came to find friends and allies. As Hajin left the hub and returned to her ship, she reflected on how much had changed in just a few months. Humanity had gone from being dismissed as primitive to being courted by galactic powers. The Battle of Nova Terra had shocked the galaxy, but the real change was still to come. The era of humanity hiding in fear was over. Now they would shape the future of the galaxy itself. 6 months after the Battle of Nova Terra, humanity had become a name that everyone in the galaxy knew. President Doyen stood in the newly constructed Terran embassy on the Galactic Council hub and looked at the star map on the wall. Blue markers showed human territory. Green markers showed the 23 former Veroth colonies under Terran protection. Yellow markers showed allied species. There were a lot of yellow markers now. We have come far, Grand Admiral Sun Wu said, standing beside the president. But we must be careful. Power makes others nervous. We need to show that we are protectors, not conquerors. The Galactic Defense Initiative is working, Doyen replied. 47 species have signed defensive agreements with us. Pirates are avoiding our patrol zones. Territorial disputes are decreasing. People are starting to trust us. But not everyone. The Torvan Empire still sees us as a threat, and 3 of the former Veroth factions refuse all contact. We cannot force friendship. We can only prove through our actions that we mean what we say. Time will tell. Fleet Admiral Jiwan was having a very different conversation on the other side of the galaxy. She stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched as a mixed fleet conducted exercises. Human destroyers flew in formation with Karev cruisers and ships from 6 other species. It was the first truly integrated multi-species military force in modern galactic history. Commander Mirai, who led the integration program, reported on the communication channel. Admiral, the exercises are going well. Response times are improving. Communication protocols are synchronized. We are ready for operational deployment. Excellent work, Commander. This is what we hope to achieve. Different species working together, each contributing their strengths. It had not been easy. Different species had different tactics, different command structures, different technologies. But humanity had one advantage that made integration possible: their quantum communication system. With instantaneous coordination, ships from different species could act as one fleet. The first test came 2 weeks later. A distress call came from a small independent colony on the edge of known space. Pirates were attacking. The colony had no defenses and was calling for help. Commander Mirai received the call first. Admiral, we are closest to the distress signal. Permission to respond? Granted. Take the mixed squadron. Show the galaxy what cooperation can accomplish. Mirai's squadron consisted of 3 human destroyers, 2 Karev cruisers, 4 smaller ships from allied species, and 30 fighters from 5 different civilizations. They jumped to the colony's coordinates and found 6 pirate vessels attacking the orbital stations. The pirates saw the arriving fleet and immediately tried to flee. But human destroyers had the fastest hyperspace drives. They jumped ahead of the pirates and blocked their escape. The Karev cruisers, with their powerful long-range weapons, disabled the pirate engines. The smaller allied vessels boarded the pirate ships and arrested the crews. The entire operation took 15 minutes. The colony governor sent a message of thanks that was broadcast across the local networks. Within hours, 6 more colonies requested protection agreements with the Terran Federation. The message was clear. The humans kept their promises. Back on Earth, Engineer Nari was working on a new project. She stood in a construction yard orbiting the moon and watched as massive structures took shape. These were not warships. They were something different, something the galaxy had never seen before. Defense stations, she explained to a group of visiting ambassadors. Each one is equivalent to 20 battleships in firepower, but they never move. We will position them along major trade routes. Any ship from any species can request protection while traveling through defended zones. Pirates and raiders will have nowhere to hide. How many will you build? Asked the Karev ambassador. 12 initially, 1 for each major trade route. If the program is successful, we will build more. The goal is to make space travel safe for everyone. The ambassadors were impressed. This was not military expansion. This was public infrastructure for security, and humanity was building it with their own resources, offering its protection freely. At the Galactic Council hub, Ambassador Hajin addressed the full assembly. The room was packed. Everyone wanted to hear what the humans would say next. Members of the council, 6 months ago, humanity was unknown to most of you. Then we fought a battle that shocked the galaxy. Many of you were afraid. You wondered if we would use our military power to dominate others, to build an empire. She paused, looking around the chamber. I understand that fear. We were afraid too. That is why we built such strong defenses. We were alone in the galaxy, wondering if anyone else existed. And when we met other species, we wondered if they would be friendly or hostile. The Vorath chose hostility. They destroyed one of our colonies. They killed thousands of our people. And they learned the cost of that choice. But we do not want to be feared. We want to be trusted. So we make you this promise. Humanity will use its military power only for defense, never for conquest, never for domination. We will protect ourselves, we will protect our allies, and we will protect anyone who asks for our help. But we will never force anyone to accept our protection. We will never demand tribute or control. We believe in cooperation, not empire. The chamber was silent. Then slowly applause began. It spread through the room until nearly every delegate was applauding. Humanity had made its position clear, and most of the galaxy was willing to accept it. Of course, not everyone was happy. In the Torvan Empire, the ancient rulers watched humanity's rise with suspicion. The Torvans had been the dominant military power for 3,000 years. They did not like competition, but even they had to admit that humanity was acting honorably. For now, they watched and waited. The remnants of the Varoth hegemony were dealing with their own problems. The empire had split into 3 factions, each claiming to be the legitimate government. One faction, led by a moderate governor named Velak, approached humanity with a peace proposal. President Doyen met with Velak on neutral ground. The Varoth governor was humble, very different from Admiral Krell's arrogance. President Doyen, my faction wishes to establish diplomatic relations. We acknowledge that the attack on your colony was wrong. We acknowledge that our military underestimated you disastrously. We seek peace and perhaps alliance. Why should we trust you? Doyen asked. The Varoth hegemony destroyed our colony without warning. Because we learned the same lesson you did. Strength alone means nothing without wisdom. Admiral Krell had strength. He lacked wisdom. It cost him his life and nearly destroyed our entire civilization. We do not want to repeat his mistakes. We want to learn from them. Doyen considered this. Revenge was tempting, but it was not productive. We accept your offer of peace. We will establish diplomatic relations. If you prove trustworthy, we can discuss deeper cooperation. But know this. If any Varoth faction attacks human territory or our allies again, the response will be even more devastating than what happened at Nova Terra. We understand, and we will remember. 10 years passed. The galaxy changed in ways that no one had predicted. Piracy dropped by 70%. Territorial wars became rare. The Galactic Defense Initiative, led by humanity but including dozens of species, maintained stability across thousands of systems. Trade flourished. Technology was shared. New alliances formed. Fleet Admiral Jiwan had retired from active command. Now she taught at the Terran Defense Academy on Earth. But it was not just a human institution anymore. Students from 47 different species attended, learning tactics, strategy, and most importantly, cooperation. She stood before a class of cadets and told them the story of the Battle of Nova Terra. The room was mixed. Human cadets sat next to Karev cadets. Former Varoth citizens studied alongside species from across the galaxy. The lesson is simple, Jiwan said. Never underestimate anyone. The Varoth thought we were weak, because they defeated 5 scout ships. They never investigated further. They assumed we were helpless. It was a fatal mistake. A young Varoth cadet raised his hand. Admiral, do you hate us? For what our people did? Jiwan looked at the cadet thoughtfully. I hate what happened. I hate that 5,000 civilians died. I hate that Captain Minho and his crew had to sacrifice themselves. But I do not hate you. You are not responsible for the decisions of Admiral Krell and Emperor Thaxon. You are here, learning to be better than they were. That is what matters." The cadet nodded, relief visible on his face. Juan smiled slightly. Besides, the question that started all of this has become something of a joke now. That wasn't their entire army? People say it whenever someone underestimates an opponent. It reminds everyone to be cautious, to investigate, to never assume. The class laughed. It was true. The phrase had spread across the galaxy, becoming a warning and a reminder. That evening, Ji-Wan walked through the memorial gardens near the academy. Thousands of names were carved into black stone. These were the people who had died in the Battle of Nova Terra. Crew members from the 14 destroyers, 47 frigates, and 89 fighters that had been lost. She stopped at one name. Captain Minho, the man who had sacrificed himself to give the fleet time to escape. Without his sacrifice, they might not have survived to bring back the intelligence that made victory possible.